For 50 years, Intel dominated semiconductors. They invented the microprocessor in 1971. Intel Inside stickers on every computer. By 2000, Intel controlled 80% of the CPU market. Their closest competitor was AMD, Advanced Micro Devices. Founded 1969, for decades, AMD lived in Intel's shadow. They made cheaper chips, lower performance, budget PCs. Intel got the premium market, Apple, Dell, HP, enterprise servers, data centers. AMD got scraps. By 2014, the gap was impossible. Intel's 14-nanometer chips were years ahead. Their R&D budget was $12 billion annually. AMD spent $1.5 billion, 8 times less. Intel had 15,000 engineers. AMD had 8,000. Intel's market cap was $150 billion. AMD was $2 billion. The fight was over. Intel won. Then Lisa Su arrived, October 2014. She saw what others missed. Intel was complacent, stuck in old architectures, focused on desktop PCs while the world moved to cloud computing and AI. Lisa Su bet everything on a new chip architecture called Zen, designed from scratch. Built for modern workloads, data centers, gaming, high-performance computing. The bet paid off. By 2024, AMD processors powered half of Amazon's data centers. Microsoft Azure ran on AMD. Google Cloud chose AMD. Supercomputers ranked #1 in the world used AMD. Intel lost. For the first time in 50 years, AMD was winning. And Lisa Su became the woman who beat Intel. Lisa Su was born in Tainan, Taiwan on November 7, 1969. Her family immigrated to New York when she was 2 years old. They settled in Queens. Her father was a retired statistician. Her mother worked in business. Education was paramount. From childhood, Lisa excelled in mathematics and science. She loved taking things apart, understanding how they worked, radios, televisions, anything with electronics. At 13, she attended the Bronx High School of Science, one of America's most prestigious public schools. Alumni include 8 Nobel laureates, 6 Pulitzer Prize winners, countless scientists and engineers. Lisa thrived there. She graduated at 16, top of her class. She entered the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in 1986. She chose electrical engineering. MIT was the epicenter of semiconductor research, the birthplace of modern computing. Lisa earned her bachelor's degree in 1990, then her master's, then her PhD in 1994, all in electrical engineering. All from MIT, her doctoral research focused on silicon-on-insulator technology, an advanced method for building faster, more efficient semiconductors. She understood chips at the molecular level, not just design, not just theory, manufacturing, physics, economics, business strategy, the entire stack. After MIT, Lisa joined Texas Instruments in 1994, then IBM in 1995. At IBM, she worked on semiconductor research and development, leading teams developing copper interconnect technology and low-power semiconductors. By 2000, she was IBM's Vice President of Semiconductor Research, the youngest person ever to hold that title. Lisa Su was not just an engineer, she was a leader, and the semiconductor industry was about to need her desperately. Advanced Micro Devices was founded in 1969 by Jerry Sanders. For decades, they competed with Intel, sometimes successfully. In the 1990s, AMD invented 64-bit computing. Intel had to license AMD's technology. In the early 2000s, AMD's Athlon processors outsold Intel Pentiums in retail. But Intel fought back. They offered rebates to computer manufacturers, exclusive deals. If Dell used Intel exclusively, they got massive discounts. If HP chose AMD, Intel raised prices. The European Union eventually fined Intel $1.4 billion for anti-competitive practices. But the damage was done. By 2006, AMD was struggling. They made a catastrophic decision. They acquired ATI Technologies for $5.4 billion. ATI made graphics cards. The acquisition was supposed to create synergy, CPUs plus GPUs. But it was a disaster. AMD paid too much, took on massive debt. Integration failed. By 2008, the financial crisis hit. PC sales collapsed. AMD's debt ballooned to $5.8 billion. The company was drowning. They sold their manufacturing facilities to global foundries, became a fabless semiconductor company, no longer making their own chips. Between 2009 and 2014, AMD had 4 different CEOs: Dirk Meyer, Thomas Seifert, Rory Read. Nobody could fix it. Intel pulled further ahead. 14-nanometer chips in production. AMD stuck at 28 nanometers. 2 full generations behind. By October 2014, AMD stock traded at $2.07. Market cap $2 billion. They were losing over $1 billion annually. Analysts predicted bankruptcy within 2 years. The board needed a miracle. They turned to Lisa Su, an engineer who had joined AMD in 2012 as senior vice president. She understood semiconductors. She understood business. On October 8, 2014, Lisa Su became CEO. Wall Street was skeptical. AMD was too far gone. But Lisa Su had a plan. Lisa Su's first 100 days were brutal. She assessed everything: product lines, talent, partnerships, manufacturing, finance. The problems were everywhere. AMD was trying to compete in too many markets: desktop CPUs, laptop CPUs, server CPUs, embedded chips, mobile processors, graphics cards, semi-custom chips. They were spread too thin, losing money in almost every segment. Lisa made hard decisions. First, exit mobile. AMD's mobile chip division was years behind Qualcomm and Apple. Billions spent, nothing gained. Shut it down. Fire the team. Take the loss. Second, focus on high-performance computing. Data centers, gaming, professional workstations, markets where performance matters more than price, where AMD could differentiate. Third, bet everything on a new chip architecture. AMD's existing chips were based on the Bulldozer architecture, launched 2011. It was terrible. Poor performance, high power consumption. AMD needed to start over, completely, from scratch. Lisa Su greenlit a project called Zen, a new CPU architecture designed for modern computing. Led by chief architect Mark Papermaster and chip designer Jim Keller. Jim Keller was a legend. He designed Apple's A-series chips, AMD's original Athlon processors. He returned to AMD in 2012 specifically to build Zen. The project would take 4 years. Cost hundreds of millions. If it failed, AMD was finished. Fourth, strengthen the graphics business. AMD's Radeon graphics cards competed with NVIDIA. Not winning, but competitive. Lisa decided to keep graphics. Use it as cash flow while Zen developed. Fifth, partner with the right manufacturers. AMD could not afford its own fabs. They would use TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, the world's best contract chip maker. Better than global foundries. Better than anyone. The strategy was clear. Shrink to grow. Focus to win. Execute flawlessly. Lisa Su communicated the plan to employees, to investors, to partners. She was calm, confident, direct. People believed her. The turnaround began. 2015 was painful. Lisa Su cut costs everywhere. Layoffs. AMD reduced headcount by 5%. 700 people lost jobs. Facilities closed. Real estate sold. Office space consolidated. R&D spending carefully managed. Only critical projects funded. Zen got resources. Everything else starved. AMD reported a $660 million loss in 2015. Stock dropped to $1.61, lowest in company history. Analysts said bankruptcy was inevitable. Debt holders circled. Vulture funds bought AMD bonds at 40 cents on the dollar, betting on default. But Lisa Su kept executing. AMD launched the Radeon R9 Fury graphics card. Strong reviews, competitive with NVIDIA's high-end. It made money, barely, but it kept the lights on. AMD also won semi-custom chip contracts. Sony PlayStation 4 used AMD chips. Microsoft Xbox One used AMD chips. These contracts provided steady revenue. Margins were thin, but cash flow was positive. It bought time for Zen. By late 2016, AMD had stabilized. Losses narrowed to $497 million. Still losing money, but bleeding slower. Lisa Su appeared at trade shows, CES, Computex. She was AMD's face, calm, technical, credible. She explained the vision. High-performance computing, Zen architecture coming. Investors started to believe. Stock climbed to $8 by December 2016. 4 times higher than the low. Hedge funds that bet against AMD lost billions. Jim Chanos, famous short seller, lost money shorting AMD. He thought Lisa Su would fail. He was wrong. The question remained, would Zen work? Everything depended on it. If Zen failed, AMD was dead. If Zen succeeded, AMD had a chance. Lisa Su bet the company. The world was about to find out. March 2nd, 2017, San Francisco. AMD held a press event. Lisa Su took the stage. She wore her signature style, business attire, confident, prepared. Behind her, a massive screen. the AMD logo, and one word, Ryzen, AMD's first Zen-based processor. The crowd was packed. Tech journalists, YouTubers, industry analysts, enthusiasts, everyone wanted to know. Can AMD compete with Intel? Lisa Su presented the specs. Ryzen 7 1700X, 8 cores, 16 threads, 3.6 GHz base clock, 4 GHz boost, 14 nanometer FinFET process, manufactured by Global Foundries. Price, $329. Then she showed the comparison. Intel Core i7 6900K, 4 cores, 8 threads, 4 GHz. Price, $339. AMD offered double the cores, same price, better multi-core performance. The audience gasped. Benchmarks appeared. Cinebench, Blender, Handbrake, video encoding, 3D rendering, compiling code. Ryzen dominated. 40% faster than Intel in multi-core tasks. Gaming performance was close. Some games Intel won, some AMD won. Overall competitive. Power consumption was excellent. 95 watts, same as Intel. Temperatures reasonable. Overclocking potential strong. The reviews went live that night. Tom's Hardware, Anantech, Linus Tech Tips, Gamers Nexus, all positive. AMD is back. Real competition for Intel. Best value in years. By morning, Ryzen processors sold out. Amazon, Newegg, Best Buy, Micro Center, gone. Enthusiasts rushed to buy. System builders switched from Intel. Retailers could not keep stock. AMD had not seen demand like this in a decade. Intel's stock dropped 3%. AMD's stock jumped 40% in 1 week, from $11 to $15. Lisa Su had delivered. Zen worked. AMD was competitive again. But this was just the beginning. Desktop processors were important. But data centers were the prize. Cloud computing, enterprise servers. This market was worth $50 billion annually. Intel owned 99%. Their Xeon processors dominated. Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, Facebook, all Intel. AMD needed a data center chip. In June 2017, Lisa Su launched EPYC, EPIC, AMD's server processor, based on Zen architecture. The specs were incredible. EPYC 7701, 32 cores, 64 threads, base clock 2.0 GHz, boost 3.0 GHz, 128 lanes of PCIe, 8 channels of DDR4 memory, all on one chip. Intel's best Xeon had 28 cores, fewer PCIe lanes, less memory bandwidth, and EPYC cost less, $7,000 versus $10,000 for comparable Xeon. Lisa Su targeted hyperscalers, companies running massive data centers. She personally met with AWS, Microsoft, Google executives, showed them benchmarks, power efficiency, TCO analysis, total cost of ownership. EPYC delivered more performance per watt, more performance per dollar, lower cooling cost, higher density. The pitch worked. In December 2017, Microsoft announced Azure would offer EPYC-based virtual machines. First major cloud provider to choose AMD. In 2018, Amazon started deploying EPYC in AWS. Google followed. By 2019, AMD had 5% data center market share. By 2020, 10%. By 2021, 16%. By 2023, 31%. Intel's data center revenue collapsed. They went from 99% to 69% in 5 years. Billions in annual revenue lost. AMD's data center business grew from $200 million to $6 billion. Lisa Su had done the impossible. She broke Intel's monopoly in the most profitable market. EPC was the dagger. Intel was bleeding. AMD had another advantage. Semi-custom chips. In 2013, AMD won contracts to supply processors for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Both used AMD CPUs and GPUs. These were modest chips. Low performance, low margin, but steady revenue. By 2020, a new console generation approached. Sony and Microsoft needed next-gen chips, much more powerful. 8K graphics, ray tracing, fast load times. Lisa Su personally negotiated. AMD would supply custom chips based on Zen 2 CPU architecture and RDNA 2 GPU architecture. 7-nanometer process. Manufactured by TSMC, November 2020. PlayStation 5 launched. Xbox Series X launched. Both powered by AMD. The chips were impressive. PlayStation 5 8 Zen 2 cores. 10.3 teraflops GPU. Xbox Series X. 8 Zen 2 cores, 12 teraflops GPU, both supported hardware ray tracing. Fast SSDs, the consoles sold out immediately. Demand exceeded supply by millions. Scalpers resold them for double MSRP. By 2023, Sony sold 46 million PlayStation 5 units. Microsoft sold 29 million Xbox Series X and S, 75 million consoles, all with AMD chips. This generated $2 billion in annual revenue for AMD. But more importantly, it built brand recognition. Gamers knew AMD powered their consoles. When building gaming PCs, they chose AMD processors. The halo effect was real. AMD's gaming CPU and GPU market share climbed. Ryzen processors outsold Intel Core in desktop gaming. Radeon Graphics gained against NVIDIA, not winning, but competitive. Lisa Su turned semi-custom chips from a boring side business into a strategic moat. Intel had no console business. NVIDIA had no CPU business. AMD had both. Integration was the weapon, and Lisa Su wielded it perfectly. Zen was a hit, but Lisa Su did not stop. AMD had a roadmap: Zen Plus, Zen 2, Zen 3, Zen 4. New architecture every year. July 2019, AMD launched Zen 2, Ryzen 3000 series, 7nm process, TSMC manufacturing, 40% better instructions per clock than Zen. Ryzen 9 3900X, 12 cores, 24 threads, 3.8 GHz base, 4.6 boost, $499. Intel's comparable chip, the i9 9900K, had 8 cores, cost $488. AMD offered 50% more cores, better multi-core performance, same price. Intel was in trouble. November 2020. AMD launched Zen 3, Ryzen 5000 series, still 7nm, but refined. 19% IPC improvement, Ryzen 9 5900X, 16 cores, 32 threads, 3.7 base, 4.8 boost, $549. Reviews were unanimous. Best gaming CPU, best productivity CPU, best everything. Intel had nothing competitive. Their chips were still 14nm, delayed, hot, power-hungry. By 2021, AMD held 40% of desktop CPU market share. Intel dropped to 60%. First time AMD crossed 40% since 2006. September 2022, AMD launched Zen 4, Ryzen 7000 series, 5nm process, TSMC N5, DDR5 memory support, PCI 5.0, Ryzen 9 7900X, 12 cores, 5.4 GHz boost, highest clock speed ever in a consumer CPU. Intel finally launched competitive chips, 13th Gen Raptor Lake, also competitive. The battle was close, but AMD had momentum. Every generation they improved. Every generation they took share. Lisa Su's execution was relentless. Roadmap delivered on time. Every time, engineers shipped, marketing sold, partners supported, investors believed. AMD's market cap crossed $200 billion. Intel's dropped below $200 billion. The student became the master. AMD's comeback had a secret weapon: TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. Founded 1987 by Morris Chang, TSMC pioneered the foundry model. They manufacture chips for other companies. They do not design chips, just make them. Apple uses TSMC. NVIDIA uses TSMC. Qualcomm uses TSMC. And AMD uses TSMC. Lisa Su made a critical decision in 2016. Partner exclusively with TSMC for leading-edge nodes. Abandon GlobalFoundries. GlobalFoundries was AMD's legacy partner. AMD spun them off in 2009. But by 2016, GlobalFoundries was falling behind. Their 14nm process was delayed. 7nm looked impossible. TSMC was years ahead. 7nm in production. 5nm coming. 3nm in development. Lisa Su negotiated directly with TSMC leadership. AMD would commit to large orders. Long-term partnership. In exchange, TSMC would prioritize AMD, give them capacity, leading-edge nodes. The partnership worked. TSMC delivered 7nm chips for Zen 2 in 2019. 5nm for Zen 4 in 2022, 3nm for Zen 5 in 2024. Meanwhile, Intel struggled. Intel always manufactured their own chips. Vertical integration. For 50 years, it was their advantage. They controlled the entire process, design and manufacturing together. But in the 2010s, Intel's manufacturing faltered. 10 nanometer delayed years. 7 nanometer failed. Intel had to redesign, rebrand. Their 7 nanometer became Intel 4, not available until 2023. By then, TSMC was shipping 3 nanometer. Intel was 2 generations behind. This gap killed them. AMD chips were smaller, faster, more power efficient, all because TSMC manufacturing was better. Lisa Su bet on TSMC, Intel bet on themselves. AMD won. In October 2020, Lisa Su made a bold move. AMD announced they would acquire Xilinx, $35 billion, all stock, the largest acquisition in AMD history. Xilinx was a strange target. They made FPGAs, field programmable gate arrays, chips that customers can reprogram after manufacturing, used in telecommunications, aerospace, data centers, automotive, a niche market, but highly profitable. Xilinx had $5 billion in annual revenue. Gross margins, 65%. Nearly $1 billion in annual profit. Wall Street was confused. Why is AMD buying Xilinx? Lisa Su explained. Data centers need more than CPUs. They need accelerators, custom chips for AI, machine learning, networking, video processing. FPGAs are programmable accelerators. Xilinx was the leader. AMD could bundle CPUs plus FPGAs, offer complete solutions. Intel had already done this. They acquired Altera in 2015 for $16.7 billion, Intel's largest acquisition ever, an FPGA company, to compete in data centers. Lisa Su was following the same playbook. The acquisition closed in February 2022. AMD paid $35 billion. Xilinx shareholders received AMD stock. No cash. AMD issued new shares. Diluted existing shareholders 12%. Some investors complained. Too expensive. Too dilutive. But Lisa Su knew what she was doing. Xilinx brought immediate profit. Added $5 billion in revenue. $1 billion in earnings. Plus, gave AMD credibility in new markets. Telecommunications, 5G infrastructure, automotive, aerospace, industrial. Markets Intel dominated. Now AMD could compete. By 2023, AMD's data center revenue hit $6 billion. Xilinx added another $5 billion, $11 billion total. Intel's data center revenue was $19 billion, still bigger, but AMD was closing, and Xilinx gave AMD higher margins, better profitability, stronger moat. Lisa Su was not just beating Intel in CPUs, she was surrounding them. Data centers, networking, AI, custom silicon. AMD was becoming a complete semiconductor company. Intel's nightmare was accelerating. In November 2022, OpenAI launched ChatGPT. The world discovered generative AI. Suddenly, every company needed AI chips. Data centers rushed to build AI infrastructure. The market exploded. NVIDIA dominated AI chips. Their H100 GPU was the gold standard, training large language models, running inference. NVIDIA's data center revenue went from $15 billion in 2021 to $47 billion in 2023. Their stock tripled. Market cap hit $1 trillion. AMD had AI chips too, but they were far behind. AMD's Instinct MI-series, MI100, MI200, competitive on paper, but software ecosystem was weak. NVIDIA had CUDA, a programming platform developers loved. AMD had Rosiem, less mature, fewer developers, smaller ecosystem. Companies bought NVIDIA, not AMD. By early 2023, NVIDIA controlled 95% of AI training chips. AMD had 2%. Lisa Su recognized the threat. If AMD missed the AI wave, their data center growth would stall. She went all in on AI, December 2023. AMD launched MI300 series, MI300X, 153 billion transistors, 8 chiplets, 5 nanometer from TSMC, 192 gigabytes of HBM3 memory. AMD claimed it matched H100 performance, exceeded it in some workloads. Price, $15,000. NVIDIA's H100 cost $30,000, half the price. Lisa Su announced partnerships, Microsoft, Meta, Oracle, OpenAI, all testing MI300. Software improved. ROCm matured. PyTorch integration better. Developer tools expanded. By mid-2024, AMD won AI contracts. Meta ordered 450,000 MI300 chips. Microsoft committed billions. Amazon evaluated MI300 for AWS. AMD's AI chip revenue hit $4 billion in 2024. NVIDIA still dominated, $50 billion in AI revenue. But AMD was growing, taking share. Lisa Su learned from Zen. Start behind. Execute relentlessly. Improve every generation. Eventually you win. AI was the same battle. and she intended to win. February 2023. Financial markets opened. AMD stock traded at $87. Market capitalization $140 billion. Intel stock traded at $27. Market cap $110 billion. For the first time in history, AMD was worth more than Intel. The moment was symbolic. For 53 years, Intel was larger, richer, more valuable. They invented the microprocessor, built Silicon Valley. Intel Inside defined personal computing. AMD was always the scrappy underdog, cheaper, lesser, budget brand. But on February 9, 2023, that ended. AMD surpassed Intel in market value. By October 2024, the gap widened. AMD $240 billion. Intel $90 billion. AMD was worth 2.6 times more than Intel. What happened? Intel's data center business collapsed. Revenue dropped from $26 billion in 2021 to $15 billion in 2023. AMD took the share. Intel's manufacturing faltered. Delays, yields poor, costs ballooning. AMD used TSMC, always ahead. Intel's margins collapsed. Gross margin dropped from 60% to 38%. AMD's margins climbed to 52%. Intel lost money in 2022. $2 billion net loss. First annual loss since 1986. AMD made $1 billion profit. Intel laid off thousands, closed factories, canceled projects. AMD hired aggressively, expanded R&D, grew. Beyond market cap, AMD won mindshare. Tech enthusiasts preferred AMD. Data center architects chose AMD. System builders recommended AMD. Reviews praised AMD. Benchmarks favored AMD. Intel was yesterday. AMD was today. Lisa Su appeared on magazine covers. Time's 100 most influential people. Forbes' most powerful women. Harvard Business Review. She became the face of American tech resilience. An immigrant. A woman, an engineer, leading a historic comeback. Intel had Pat Gelsinger. Respected, experienced, but fighting a losing battle. Trying to turn around a giant. While AMD accelerated, the race was over. AMD won. Today, Lisa Su is one of the most successful CEOs in tech history. She took over AMD in October 2014 when the stock was $2. 10 years later, it trades at $180, 90 times return. Market cap $300 billion, one of the 30 largest companies in America. Under her leadership, AMD's revenue grew from $4 billion to $23 billion. Profit went from losing $1 billion to making $1 billion. Employee headcount doubled, from 8,000 to 17,000. The best engineers want to work at AMD. Under Lisa Su, AMD broke Intel's monopoly. They won 31% of data center market share, 40% of desktop CPUs, 80% of gaming consoles. They compete with NVIDIA in AI. Partner with every major cloud provider. Power the fastest supercomputers. Supply chips to Tesla, Sony, Microsoft. Lisa Su proved that technical excellence wins. Focus wins. Execution wins. She did not rely on marketing, or financial engineering, or acquisitions alone. She built great products, delivered them on time, priced them fairly. Customers rewarded her. Intel tried to copy her. Hired Pat Gelsinger in 2021, announced massive spending, $18 billion on new fabs, IDM 2.0 strategy, integrated device manufacturer. They would compete with TSMC, manufacture for others, regain leadership. But 3 years later, Intel is still behind, still struggling, still losing share. Because culture is hard to change, and Lisa Su built a culture of execution. AMD does not miss deadlines, does not overpromise, does not underdeliver. They ship, on time, every time. This is her legacy. Not just saving AMD, not just beating Intel, but showing that technical leadership matters, that engineering excellence wins, that a 50-year monopoly can be broken if you have the right plan, the right team, the right leader. Lisa Su is that leader, the woman who beat Intel, the engineer who changed everything. And she is not done yet.